Alexis Ohanian, co-founder of VC fund Initialized Capital and Reddit co-founder. Initialized Capital is an investor in Betterfin and joins. Wow, what a background, Alexis, firstly.
I've been busy.
Yeah.
I've been trying to keep busy, but feeling very, very fortunate to be in a position like this right now where, we get to work with companies like Betterfin that are working hard, helping process literally hundreds of PPP applications in the last 6 weeks for small businesses all across the U.S.
I mean, talk us through then the level of questions that small businesses have had via Betterfin, like how hard they found it, how easy it's been to answer those questions, and I guess how concerned you are now that even if you could provide the answers, the money's run out.
Yeah, well, that was definitely news over the last couple of days to see that, a $349 billion stimulus ran out in 2 weeks. The Ready Relief product that Betterfin's created essentially allows for a white glove service, or sort of a TurboTax-like platform to help them get through that loan application process quickly and easily. Obviously, this was, I hope, just the start of a bigger plan for the government to get more money into our small and medium businesses. I think a number I saw one of your colleagues retweet today was that 1.6 million out of the 30 million SMBs in the U.S. actually got loan approvals. So that means there is a lot more work to be done to be getting disaster loans and money into our small businesses.
So what does your company actually do? How does it give businesses an edge when it comes to accessing this capital, and how do you make money?
Yeah, well, software. At the end of the day, they've been working hard for a number of years with the SBA in order to help facilitate this kind of lending, which has now become obviously even more important in light of the COVID disaster. And so in the same way TurboTax uses software to simplify the process of filing your taxes, it is using software to simplify the process of getting these loans. And so making that process, which can be pretty daunting and can be pretty complicated, especially to folks who are under as much duress as the average American is right now, is the name of the game. And the way that money is actually made is in the relationship that they have with lenders in the long term. They know that there are dollars that are available by the government for small businesses that qualify that they just don't actually have access to. And so they'd rather make the money from the banks than from Main Street.
Alexis, taking one step back from Betterfin to Initialized Capital, your own VC investment firm. I mean, of all the companies, the many companies you've directly invested in, how are they finding all of this at the moment? And is this a moment where it's better to be private than to be public? A lot of the companies you've invested in have a pathway to going public at some point. Is it good that you're not having your price fluctuate and mark to market lower, or would that have actually made it easier to get access to capital at this time?
It really does depend on the companies. I mean, y'all were just doing the roundup, and I like a lot of people have been keeping CNBC on repeat all day long. Watching the markets react to the kinds of companies that are doing well during this crisis, would do well for companies in our portfolio like, say, Instacart, which, is publicly hiring literally hundreds of thousands of people right now to keep up with the demand and the growth that they've seen. Row Health offering their free telehealth assessment for COVID-19 symptoms. We're seeing types of companies in certain industries obviously do very well. And I think the overall trend has already been encouraging companies to stay private longer. And, looking at the IPO market obviously being pretty cold for the next couple of years, I think we'll just see that further continue.
One of your companies is Instacart, which is definitely very popular out on the East Coast right now. But I'm wondering if these online grocery delivery companies like Instacart are really up to the task. I mean, are they actually able to meet this increased demand and increased capacity? Because it seems like there are no slots left for delivery every time I check.
Yes. Well, they've recently pushed some features that'll allow you to be a lot more flexible with when your delivery will come, which I know we've been fortunate enough to take advantage of at the Ohanian household, at least. At the end of the day, having a company that has software in its core infrastructure, that is a software-first company, gives it an advantage in any crisis like this because of the scalability and flexibility of software. And so I think a trend that we've seen in the last 10 years around, software eating the world, and this idea that more and more businesses need to be software businesses is only going to be exacerbated during this recession, because it's the businesses that will be able to scale and offer a path to profitability easier because of the margin software afford that are going to be able to thrive. And so, so far Instacart's been a great example of that.
Alexis, I wanted to ask you about net neutrality. I know you're a big believer in net neutrality. It's been discussed with you on CNBC before. We're all relying so much on internet connections right now. And I guess I'm not really talking about right now whether those companies should be increasing prices or profiting from the current crisis. But I guess it highlights how much we rely on it. And do you think it is fair to rethink that preference for net neutrality? That why should Netflix be the one that benefits totally from our increased use of these types of things, as opposed to the company that delivers the pipes that allows Netflix to prosper?
Well, you know what? We create a government-sponsored oligopoly of infrastructure companies, cable companies that provide this internet service, and I think it is quite reasonable, especially in times like this when we consider how much we prioritize our internet connection, to consider the internet the utility that we all know it is. Most of us would much sooner have other utilities go off for a day or two than lose an internet connection, given how much of our lives depend on it. But I've noticed in particular more and more conversations from parents who are now having school in their home because their kids are back there, who are seeing both the gift and the curse of remote learning. It is a tremendous asset to have that as an opportunity if you have the bandwidth to enjoy it. But the digital divide exists in this country. And for a lot of Americans, especially in rural America, getting the high-speed internet that frankly, those Americans deserve is unattainable, in part because we haven't made the internet the legal utility that we know it to be. But again, in the light of everything else going on in the world, I can't beat my drum too loudly for net neutrality these days, because there's a much bigger priority, and that's the 22 million Americans now unemployed, and helping those households and those workers get through this crisis is absolutely, I hope, priority number one for our government.
Well, we actually got a segment later with Khan Academy, which is doing just that, trying to access learning for those that don't have that digital infrastructure. Finally, Alexis, we're jumping all over the place, but you have so many different backgrounds and interests. You really think that people in this country are going to be okay sacrificing civil liberties to get traced by Google and potentially Apple as we try to battle this pandemic and get back to work? Where do you think that conversation goes?
I really don't know. There is clearly a trade-off here, and we are seeing in other countries, especially ones that I think we're a little bit more culturally aligned to, say countries like Germany or South Korea that have been able to, albeit with smaller populations, really effectively triage this. And I think it either comes down to some discussion between that privacy and safety trade-off that we always make sort of with our governments, but now are also increasingly, especially in the U.S., realizing we have to make between us as citizens and our multinational corporations, which is very different from how the original kind of blueprint for the nation was supposed to be when it got started. But this is the world we live in, and I hope that some combination of effective government and effective business, both with oversight from us, the public, can actually get us to a place where we can get Americans safely back to living their lives as quickly as possible. But safely really is the most important word here. There are just too many vulnerable people who they're our fellow Americans. Yes, they're also consumers, and yes, they're also small business owners. But at the end of the day, they're our fellow Americans, and so we do have an imperative to help them get through this as well and as safely as we can.